Welcome to Relay Chain, a podcast produced by Parity Technologies, where we discuss all things Substrate, Polkadot, and Web3. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Relay Chain. I'm here with Alex and Zachary from Subsocial, and we're going to dig deep into the wonderful world of social networks on blockchain. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you both doing today?
Hey, Jorrin. Thanks for inviting to Relay Chain. Relay Chain is one of my favorite podcasts, actually. I listen to different crypto and startup podcasts on Castbox from time to time, and I listen to Relay Chain with pleasure.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Hey, Jorrin, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having us on. I'm also a big fan of the podcast. A lot of good information.
Sweet. Glad to hear it. Always try and make useful content for not only for people outside of the ecosystem, but you guys are building in the ecosystem. So it's really nice to hear that you get some value out of it as well. Okay, so let's just dive right in and let's take it right from the top, and then we can kind of drill down from there. Who wants to give a nice overview of what Subsocial is?
Yeah, so basically Subsocial is a place to build your own social networks. It's not really a social network like Twitter or Facebook per se. It's more of an infrastructure, framework, or platform where you can build your own social networks. So at the core of Subsocial, we have what are called spaces. This can they're really customizable, so it can either be like a personal page, or you can make it like a community, sort of like a subreddit. And so, there's permissions. You could make it where no one else can post in your space if you wanted to make it more like your own Twitter page, or you could have it where anyone that's following the space can post in it, again, like a subreddit. And so you can sort of make your own communities there. And then the big difference that I see between Subsocial and traditional social networks like Facebook or Twitter is with traditional social networks, you have the front end, which is like the website, and the back end, which is their servers and algorithms and stuff. And we can't separate those. So if we want to use Facebook, we have to use the Facebook website, and we have to be subject to their algorithms and all that. With Subsocial, because it's decentralized on the blockchain, the two can be separated. So we have the Subsocial blockchain, which is the back end, and anyone can connect to it because it's permissionless. And then we have the front end. So the team, we've already built two separate front ends. We have the main Subsocial web app, and then we also have Polkaverse. So in the future, anybody could build another front end they want, and they can make it look however they want. They could build certain filtering stuff into it. So you could have a front end that looks just like Twitter and doesn't show the downvote button because Twitter doesn't have one. Or you can make one like Instagram that only shows posts with pictures in them, etc. It's like, for example, Polkaverse, it only shows content that has to do with Polkadot and Kusama, versus Subsocial will show everything. So I think in the future, you'll be able to have your own space, and then you can pick whichever website you want to interface with it and really get a customizable experience and be able to create your own social network however you would like.
That's awesome. So to kind of use some of the terminology that we might be used to in general blockchain space, we have this concept of money Legos. This almost sounds like, social network Legos, where you have all this information, you can kind of assemble it in whatever way you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when I was designing Subsocial, I just looked through major social networks at the time, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Quora, Medium, Stack Overflow, and I just found that they share a lot of similar things. Like there should be some kind of informational content, like page, group, forum, account, etc. Then there is such thing as a kind of like post or question or article or status. So it's a second important thing. And then you should be able to have a discussion around this informational piece of information through comments or through threads. And you should be able to show your appreciation through like upvote, heart, like, etc. And then you should be able to follow those content creators that produce interesting content, like make friends with them or follow or subscribe and so on. So we created several modules for Substrate blockchain framework that forms what Subsocial is. So Subsocial is a set of palettes for Substrate optimized for social networking. And among these palettes, most important are spaces, and then posts and follows, reactions, permissions, roles, and other stuff. And by using this social Legos, you could design how would you like to see your social network. And plus, not only on blockchain, but on UI, Subsocial is blockchain layer 1 on its own. And it means that Subsocial by default is already open, permissionless social network thing, right? And it means that anyone could build on top of it without asking permission, in contrast to like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
Mm.
And then you can add or remove on UI anything you want.
Right. So you're saying that Subsocial is a blockchain layer all on its own. What kind of consensus algorithm is involved in making this making it secure?
So we have been thinking about whether we want to go with parachain or standalone chain based on Substrate, and right now we decided to go as a standalone chain because in comparison with parachain, standalones are much more performant as of today. So for example, for Substrate-based chains, it's recommended block time 6 seconds. When on parachains, it's like 12 seconds, so block time is 2 times longer. And then on parachains, you can include business logic only in half a second. So, I mean, this time for executing of your extrinsics. And on standalone chain, you can have up to 2.5 seconds per one block for extrinsics. So it means that on standalone, you can have about 5 seconds for your business logic when you compare 2 blocks of 6 seconds to 1 block of 12 seconds, right? So on standalone, it's 5 seconds. On parachain, it's half a second. So it's 10 times more time for your business logic on a standalone, and it means that standalone is much more performant. And such as we building social networking things, we expect lots of transactions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we decided on standalone chain, and also we decided that we want to take a setup that is similar to Kusama. I mean, a source combination of palettes and similar settings, maybe with some changes, but without parachain functionality, and plus our all social networking palettes that we created.
I see.
So you can think like social Sama in some way.
So social Sama. Awesome.
Yes.
And so does that mean that Subsocial is a proof of stake network?
Yes. So currently we have proof of authority beta.net chain, and it works for 1 year already, and so far so good. But of course, we want to decentralize it a lot, and for this, we're going to relaunch it as mainnet chain with migrating state of this beta.net chain to this new mainnet that we're going to launch. So the state of chain should be presumed, but in a new setup of a chain with proof of stake as in Kusama.
Right. So currently you are on a beta net, which is essentially live and fairly feature complete. And so you're planning on migrating that over to the actual mainnet launch. Is there anything that's going to be changing in that transition aside from like more decentralized nodes?
So lots of people are already familiar with such terms like testnet, mainnet. But then we have this canary net thing, and also I see that other blockchains start using this beta.net. We also started use this term like 1 year ago, and it means like it's not that super official like mainnet, but it's not that not very serious as people may say testnet. So by saying beta.net, it's like almost like mainnet, but it's not officially mainnet, and could be relaunched. That's why when we launch this mainnet, we're going to transition all the state at the last moment on betanet to mainnet. But plus this new chain will be proof of stake, in contrast to today's proof of authority. Plus it will have such palettes like console, democracy, treasury, stuff for validators, and all the required functionality to have stake and on-chain governance, all these related palettes, and plus our palettes.
I see. And so how do you plan on like bootstrapping and building a large enough kind of validator set to support the network in a secure and decentralized way?
So we reached out to validators that are familiar with running validators for DotSama and Polkadot, and currently we are preparing guides for them, and these guides are quite familiar to how to be a validator on DotSama, so we're going to help them with some initial tokens.
Cool. So yeah, I want to kind of switch gears and talk more about the kind of state of social networks as they are. So we're very familiar with the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Reddits and such like that. And from the impression I get with Subsocial is like it's aimed to be able to handle any kind of experience like that. And it's up to the community kind of to build a front end that gives that experience. So can you talk about like the architecture and how that kind of is made possible through Subsocial?
So I would say that at some point we might look like a mix of Medium and Reddit. Some people say this, and it's totally fine. But I wouldn't say that we are trying to be totally similar to like Twitter and of Facebook, because they have a long history. Facebook is developing since 2004, Twitter since 2006, and they didn't have these challenges with blockchain and bad user experience of blockchain products, and they have thousands of employees and so on and so forth. So in some way we're quite similar to what they offer to users, but I think that we need to develop in a little bit different direction by taking into account what is happening on blockchain. Because if you think about early days of Facebook, why people went to Facebook, because they wanted to see what is happening with their friends. So they visited their pages and checked their activities, like somebody start new job, somebody watched movies, somebody wrote this post, and so on and so forth. But on blockchain, we don't read books. we can buy some tokens. We can participate in crowd loan. We can follow another account. And on blockchain account, it's really like more financial account and what is happening around that. So I think in our case, our vector should be somewhere in intersection of what people expect from like Twitter, Medium, Reddit, plus what people can see on today's NFT marketplaces. Like they can see some things that are on sale, like crypto art, ENS domains, and maybe some new stuff will start to be listed soon. And plus some kind of wallet functionality when we can see all your balances, your different addresses, maybe link them with each other, interconnect, and subscribe to another accounts. If this account has some social profile and you can understand that this guy is that guy and co-founder of that project, and of course you could be interested what this guy is buying or something like that. So I think it should be intersection of traditional Web 2.0 plus DeFi plus NFT and plus this multi-chain wallet experience.
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of thought to say, like where we used to share, pictures of our food or, pictures of our animals or something like that. We can now have a social network where we're sharing pictures of our wallet, so to speak, where it's like, oh, I just picked up this new NFT or I just picked up this new token. That's an interesting concept. And I wonder, like, what your thoughts are when it comes to like privacy in that kind of space? Like, do you think that people would really want to share freely, like what's in their wallet versus kind of keep that financial information private? Like when I think of like our day-to-day interactions, it's not like people opening up their wallet and being like, look at all the money I have in my wallet.
Yes, but this is a very interesting question, and here's two parts of answer to that. Right now, I'm listening to book that is History of Facebook, and recently I listened to chapter about new feature feed, the feed that we all used to, right? And when Facebook launched that feed, people was so shocked that Facebook received like 1,000 emails and messages that what the hell are you doing? Why are you showing to everybody of my, like to all my friends that I listen to this music or I engage with somebody or something else and so on and so forth. So people were shocked, but then like couple weeks later or months they used to it and that's it. And now everyone is sharing much more than like 20 years ago. So 20 years ago it was not expected that people will want to share so much information, and today people are sharing without even thinking. If it's not something super I don't know, private or I don't know. And this is one thing that people already became much more open. Plus there is such a tendency that people are more relaxed about the finance situation, at least in like developed countries. And I heard some stories on other crypto-related podcasts where they discussed. I don't remember. Maybe like there is already some kind of apps where people can share their portfolios, or there were stories like one guy was raising money for college or something like that. So this finance became more social at the same time. So this first part of answer, and second part is that sometimes people forget that blockchain is already transparency and openness, right? So recently we created a side project called sub.id. It's a URL of this project, like substrate identity. And there you can insert any substrate-based account address, like from Polkadot, Kusama, Karura, Shiden, etc., or any standalone chain like Edgeware, Chainx. And also they can sign in with any account from Polkadot extension and see what are other addresses related to this address in different formats of other chains, and what are the balances on these chains. Because for those of you who don't know, even such as addresses could look different on different substrate-based chains, but all of them are derived from one substrate address. So this is a very interesting property of substrate-based account addresses. And some people ask, like, maybe that person doesn't want that their balances is visible. But hey, their balance is already on blockchain. And what we did, we just aggregated on one page. That's it. So it's not like we are showing something that is hidden. It's already there and it's open because at least right now, most or maybe all of substrate-based chains are not zero knowledge proofs based blockchains, right? So all balances are open.
Right. So, I mean, there is like a certain aspect of like pseudonymity with blockchain where it's not like your actual real world name on your account, but it's like, you know, a string of it's an alphanumeric string. So I guess like, is there a way of separating a person's personal identity with this data, right? Like, are you putting it in the context of, you know, this is this person's account and this is all of the things that they have invested in? Or is there an opportunity for users to opt out from showing any kind of personal information? But of course, the actual data, the wallet and tokens are all going to be on chain.
Yeah, so currently there is no such functionality, and if you don't want to reveal your identity, you just don't create a profile for you. Just keep your account as a combination of letters and numbers, and that's it. But yeah, in the future it could be like that. But I think for security reasons, it's better if you don't want to share something just better not create. If you're fine with sharing who you are, then go for it. Because even this turn on off some parts of your information, I mean, it could be quite tricky, and it needs proper implementation and testing. But of course it's possible, but we didn't work on that.
When you say like just don't create an account, do you mean like don't create an account on Subsocial or
Profile. I mean, I'm separating account because on blockchain account, the word account is already in use. So like if you look on Twitter, account is your public social profile, right? But on blockchain, account is your record with your balance and what is happening around that. So we call it sometimes social account. It's a social extension to your blockchain kind of account. Or just profiles. It's something that is public, like a name, bio, image, etc. So I'm saying that just don't create profile. Just keep account like without anything added to it.
So there are privacy solutions that are being in the works. So you can basically have like your main wallet where all your money is, and then have, you know, a separate account that you use for like Subsocial and stuff like that. And then, you know, you can just transfer a little bit of money through the privacy chain, so no one will be able to track where most of your funds are, and you can keep that one totally anonymous, not linked to you at all.
I see. Okay. And when you create a profile, that's when you like attach any kind of information that you put on that profile with your pseudonymous like Substrate address. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you just associate your public social information with your Substrate blockchain account.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. So there is an aspect of opt-in, and it's not like completely exposing somebody if they don't want to. That makes sense.
Yeah. This is a big thing. Like I would just want to add more on this. So on traditional websites, people usually sign in, log in with email and password combination. Sometimes you could sign in, log in with Gmail, Google account, Facebook account, Twitter account, right? But in blockchain, we already can use your crypto key pair, like public account, to be associated with some unique person or user or bot, whatever, and you don't need the email and password. And on Subsocial, people just are represented as public addresses, and there could be profiles that just public addresses and nothing else. And you can already use Subsocial, and this is a big deal. And sometimes if I see some sites like we are building Web3 social network, and then I click OK, login, and I say login with email and password or with Facebook, I think like, what? You're saying Web3 social network, login with email and password? Are you kidding?
Right. So this is a completely new paradigm, and you plan on breaking those kind of older like things that we've become used to that definitely are not part of like the user sovereignty of information new paradigm that we're trying to move into.
Yeah, exactly. And recently, Buterin made presentation at a conference in Paris, and his presentation was, could we do something different than just DeFi on Ethereum? And he was speaking about social networking a lot, and he said exactly this thing, that why Ethereum account cannot be the same thing like login with Facebook, login with Google. Why we cannot log in with Ethereum? Why we and then from me, like why we cannot log in with Substrate account address, like with Polkadot, DotSama, whatever, right? We can do it totally.
That's amazing. Okay, so we know that like blockchains are really good for certain things like the availability of information, but they also can be kind of expensive to store information on there. So can you talk about how with a social network, when we're creating like sometimes lots of content, where does this get stored, and how does it propagate through the network so that we can access it whenever we go to a space?
Yeah, so on Subsocial, our two main components that define Subsocial are blockchain. It's a super main component, and second is external storage. So in current situation, we use IPFS, but it could be also potentially Arweave or hypercore and something like that, or even like private database. So the idea is that on blockchain, we usually just keep track of what account created what entity. And this entity is defined by a unique sequential number, like from 1, 2, 3, and so on. This number could be very huge because it's U64. And then rest of information, usually like name, image, avatar, description, tags, social links, whatever, or body of the post or comment. We store it on IPFS, and IPFS returns this unique CID based on hash sum of content. And then once content is stored on IPFS, we receive that CID. We take the CID and send it with extrinsic transaction to Substrate, and then we record like this account, like 5AD9, and so on. It created this post in with this CID under this space defined by this ID, like a space number 2045, for example, right? And some other additional set of permission we can save on blockchain, like maybe permissions per space, or maybe editors. For example, we have a nice feature, you can add editors to your space. So all the logic that should be executed on blockchain should be, related information should be kept on blockchain. But if you have like body of post or social links and tags, and if they are not participating in logic of application in terms of like blockchain, then you don't need to store this information. But what is interesting, for example, unique names of space, like we call it handle, is the name of space that is used in URL. It should be stored in blockchain, because only in this way, by having decentralized global consensus, we can be sure that this name is unique, it's not taken by many other space, and then allow a given space to reserve this unique name. But like normal names like title of post or body, they should not be unique. That's why they could be stored on IPFS, because they're not taking part in business logic on blockchain.
I see. So it's a hybrid of IPFS and blockchain. So the data, like the actual content, is going to be stored off chain, because otherwise that'd be super expensive. And then you just store like the pointer, the location of that data somewhere else. Okay.
Yeah. And there is even additional answer to that, is that let's say you would create something like Subsocial on Ethereum, and in that way your information would be less optimal, because lots of things would happen in smart contracts, and smart contracts takes some place on blockchain. But in case with Substrate, you can have much more optimized way to store information.
Okay. Cool. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about like the social kind of ecosystem. We've talked a little bit about like kind of what Facebook has done and how they've innovated, but I've also created a bunch of issues. Can we talk about like how you see Subsocial kind of addressing these issues? I guess first identifying what those issues are, and then how Subsocial addresses those issues.
Yeah, so I think there's like three main issues. Number one would be censorship. Number two would be monetization stuff. I mean, like YouTube particularly, I think they take like 45% of the revenue, which is kind of ridiculous. And number three would probably be siloing everybody. So, users on Twitter and Facebook, they can't interact with each other, they're separated. So as far as censorship, because it's built on the blockchain, decentralized, there's no central authority. There's nobody that can censor you. Once something's on the blockchain, it's there forever. People do raise questions though, so I will point out, if people are uploading content like images or videos, that's not getting stored on the blockchain, that's being hosted on an IPFS node. So the people running IPFS nodes, they can determine what they're hosting on their own node. So, if someone uploads a video that's illegal in a jurisdiction, the people aren't going to host that on their node. So it can be censored in that sense, but you can't be censored on the blockchain layer. Within spaces, we do have moderation, because obviously there will be trolls and spam and stuff. So if you have your own space, you can moderate that, kick people out, delete them, whatever. but someone that's been kicked out of a space, they can go make their own space and they can put whatever content there, and there's no one that can kick them out of that space because it's theirs. Monetization, currently we're working on integrating tip functionality, and we have a couple other ideas we're going to implement, like subscriptions, sort of like Patreon has, possibly pay-per-view type stuff, or experts, so you could have like a panel of experts in your space, and they can all vote on like what's the best content, and then that content will get some monetization rewards. And because, again, it's decentralized on the blockchain, there's no central authority, so there's nobody that will be taking a cut. If you post like a joke and it makes me laugh, I can send you a tip and it will go directly from my wallet straight to your wallet. There's nobody that takes any cut. So I think we might see this sort of micro-tipping ecosystem emerge where friends can send each other 10 cents for posts all the time, just have all this money flowing around. And I think it'll really bring out a whole lot of creativity. And then as far as siloing users, ideally, Subsocial would just become like I don't want to say the de facto social network because it's more of a platform for building social networks, but it would sort of be like the base layer for all these different social networks, but they're connected. So, there's people that use Twitter and they don't like Facebook just because they don't like the way it's laid out on the website. And so the people on Twitter and Facebook, they can't interact at all. Versus in the future, we'll have multiple front ends for Subsocial where they're kind of segregated, but the base blockchain layer is still there connecting both of them, so these users can still interact.
That's very cool. I'm starting to put the pieces together in my mind how all of this would interact with each other. It's very awesome. I want to jump back to like the censorship piece because that's been like a pretty big piece in pop culture recently, on several platforms like Twitter and Facebook have both been accused of this, even YouTube, of just like pulling down content that they themselves didn't agree with. But in the Subsocial kind of paradigm, you have spaces which are curated by the creator of that space, and then you have users of that space. Is the creator of the Subsocial, are they the arbiter of what can and cannot be shown on there? And is there a mechanism for users themselves to determine if something should or should not be included in these spaces?
Yeah, so like if you make a space, you're like the sole moderator, but you could appoint other moderators, or if you want to turn it into more like a Reddit type community, you can basically create a space and then decentralize it. We haven't talked about yet, we'll be having space tokens. So each space will be able to mint their own token, and then they can use that as like a governance token in addition to other things. So you could create a space, set it up where the tokens are used as governance. And if someone wants to if you want to kick someone, that has to go through a vote. And then you use the space tokens, you disperse them out among the community. So if someone wants to kick someone, then everyone has to vote on it. So there's ways to sort of like turn it into a DAO of sorts. It's not always going to be just one person that made it.
Right. It's a democratized social space, which I feel like that's the way it really should be. Very cool.
Yeah, also I wanted to add that in traditional social networks like Twitter, Reddit, they're usually represented as one whole thing, like backend and front end is just one product. But in our case, we consist of several products. One product is blockchain, and it's one thing. And another thing is that we are creating our own reference implementation of how web UI look like, how mobile app could look like. But people can create totally alternative, they can be super different or similar, and so on and so forth. And maybe somebody it was not happy with somebody else on Twitter, but such as there barely only one main official client. There are some apps, but people usually use this official clients, right? But if there was a super easy way to switch to another app that is focused on some other sub information from Twitter, right? So maybe people or platform would not need to ban an account totally from the platform. And it would be a question about moderating, not showing some accounts on that particular web UI, right? Maybe that web UI mobile app would be very used in like United States. Another app would be popular in Japan, and this app would be totally different. And even like just think about Japan. Maybe in Japan people don't care about lots of politicians from US, right? So why they need to care about some middle politicians from US? And it will be not even censoring; it just not showing them because it doesn't. It is not relevant to Japan. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But on Twitter, it's not possible because everyone should be on this same app because in this way, Twitter can make some good money by showing advertisement through apps that they control.
Mm-hmm.
But with social, it will be totally different. So I would not say that it's like censoring or something like that. It's just matter of how relevant it is.
Mm-hmm. On the topic of ads, do ads play any kind of part in Subsocial? Is there a mechanism to show advertisement?
Yeah, it's kind of voluntary. So the example I usually use is if you had a bunch of people that, they like working on old cars, you set up a space on Subsocial where you can talk about working on old cars. And then, you could mint those space tokens and sort of turn the space into a DAO of sorts. And then everyone in the space could vote on whether or not they wanted to sell ad space within the space. And then they'd vote on who they sell the ad space to. And they would probably only sell the ad space to people that are going to advertise car parts because that's what they're into. And that's what they want to see because they might want to buy them. So they're basically getting paid to get shown stuff that is actually relevant to them.
That's so interesting. So I guess in that case, it would make sense for the social network to build up a certain amount of a user base in order for it to be valuable to a company, in this case, a car parts company, to want to advertise to them, right? Because they want to get in front of their target audience. So it allows people to congregate of a certain concentration of like-minded people, and then it gives the opportunity for the advertisers to opt in to pay to get in front of those people. So it's super interesting.
But sizes of auditory depends because if you compare like advertisement on YouTube to just normal regular people, and you're advertising, let's say, milk, or you're advertising, I don't know, like some other products for kitchen, it's one thing, and maybe you want to advertise to 1 million of people. But if you're advertising to crypto related stuff, if you advertise to just 10,000 people, it's already a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the scope of the market and the amount of people you're reaching definitely matters. And I think in this case too, like because there's a space around this particular topic, the quality of the people you're going to reach is going to be much higher. So the value for that advertiser is potentially greater. Very cool. So, but it comes down to creating that network, that space of valuable eyeballs, I suppose. And so that brings up another topic, like social networks are only as good as the amount of people and the quality of the people that are using it. So what are your thoughts around generating that amount of users, like getting to that peak, that threshold of where there's enough people there that there's enough social interaction, right? Because like typically we want to go to where the people are talking, right? Twitter's so great because everybody's using Twitter, but like, how do you get to that point where there's enough people using it that more people want to join? Does that make sense?
Yes, a lot. This is very, very, very good question. And just yesterday, again, I was listening to a chapter of this Facebook history book, and each chapter was about growth. So it discussed different techniques that Facebook took to increase their growth. And this is another story, but let's get back to blockchains. And again, Polkadot network, DotSama network, Ethereum network. Everything is already a network, right? So just think about it. In our case, in case of blockchains and Web3, we already have network effect. And let's get back to that story when there was Uniswap, right? And then 1 year ago, less than 1 year ago, SushiSwap, they just forked the Uniswap code base, right? They created alternative web user interface, and they don't require users to something like re-register, create yet another profile, because users already had their profiles on Ethereum. So users had profiles, accounts, not on Uniswap, they had on Ethereum. And this is a huge deal because Uniswap is just one way to look at what's happening on Ethereum. I think of it like a portal into sub part of Ethereum. And SushiSwap is another portal to look on what is happening on Ethereum. And this is the biggest difference between comparing Twitter to Facebook and then comparing Uniswap to SushiSwap in terms of network's effect. Because on Ethereum and on Bitcoin, Polkadot, and so on and so forth, we already have open, shared network effects. On Facebook and Twitter, we have closed, siloed network effects.
Mm-hmm.
I do think growing the network will probably be the biggest challenge we'll have. I mean, obviously building it is a challenge, but they can build it and they don't really have to rely on anyone else versus growing the network user base. We kind of have to sell the product to millions of people. And luckily it will get easier the farther along we go because of those network effects.
Mm-hmm.
But, if there's nobody on the platform, then nobody's going to want to use the platform because there's nothing there. So that's why we're sort of doing like a content bootstrapping thing where people that are using the network right now, like the early adopters, we usually reward them with some tokens. It's sort of like it's kind of like a risk reward thing, although it's really not that big of a risk, just to copy paste articles and stuff onto the platform.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, as I mentioned, that on across most of substrate-based chains, all accounts are compatible. So we can derive account of Kusama public address of account on Kusama from public address on Polkadot, and on Karura, and on Shiden, and other chains, except Moonbeam, Moonriver, because they use format of Ethereum. And in their case, you can create public address only from seed phrase. But on most of the Polkadot Kusama related chains, you can derive this account address. And what it gives to us is that any existing account, that people know private phrase of it, they are already users of Subsocial, like at least potential, in a matter of click. So they just need to click sign in. Then they select account from the Polkadot.js, and they already can use it. The only thing here tricky is to have some tokens. And we're working in that direction. We are working on free transactions for source accounts who have some existential deposits in respected chains like Polkadot and Kusama. Plus, we're going to have some event like token claim. So if you have existential deposit, you could claim some tokens of Subsocial and so on. So we half of a way to bootstrapping because of accounts already exist.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I guess what I was going to ask is, like, crypto blockchain is still a fairly niche. It's becoming more and more mainstream, but it's still a fairly small ecosystem. I've heard, numbers thrown around. I'm not sure how you quite get to this number, but like the entire population of crypto is like 100 million. Even if it was like a bit more than that, it wouldn't be much more than that. And when I look at like other social networks, there's like billions of people potentially on these platforms. I guess what I'm asking is, like, do you think that people need to onboard to like the general crypto sphere and before they even think about going to Subsocial, or does Subsocial have a way of targeting people like, non-crypto native people to their social network, to the
I think we are fine just targeting crypto people for now.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is about scope of auditory audience and quality and financial the possibilities. Because 10 million users on in crypto is could be much better in terms of creativity, possibilities, different interesting developments and ideas than 1 billion of users on like some other network, right?
Mm-hmm.
On social network. So, like in case with Twitter's Instagram, their goal was like to onboard as much as possible users. But in our case, I think we could say as much as possible crypto people in the first place. And this is not bad at all, because crypto people are normal people at the same time. And it means like they can provide good feedback, like from point of view of a normal user, like a person, human being, right? So they also use other products. They also use sites, mobile apps, and so on and so forth. So they provide valuable feedback, and based on this feedback, we can improve, iterate our user experience in general, and then at some point, the user experience of our products will be much better and ready for prime time with normies, with more general audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Target the lower hanging fruit, the people that have already onboarded and are used to having the responsibility of maintaining a private key and so forth. And that's a huge barrier for people just joining the crypto space in general, is taking that kind of responsibility. So yeah, I get it. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about the stuff that you guys have building right now. So you mentioned you got Polkaverse, and then you have the Subsocial main spaces. So those are two spaces that you can people can go and visit and consume content, and they're essentially attached to the same backend, the same blockchain, but they're curated in a different way. So that's a good example for people to check out. We talked about Sub ID, which from what you talked about sounds very similar analogy to like a Zapper or a Zerion. And so you guys are building that out a little bit more. Did you have anything else to add about that?
Yeah, so we did this experiment. We looked at what's happening in DotSama ecosystem, and what we have different chains. Some of them are standalone chains like Edgeware, Chainix, Sora, and we have parachains as of today, Karura, Shiden, Moonbeam. And then we have relay chains like Polkadot, Kosama, and for people to see their balances, they need to switch between different chains in Polkadot.js, or some of them are supported on Fearless Wallet. And by the way, Fearless Wallet said recently that they're going to add much more chains very soon. And we thought, like, why not create this app where you can just sign in or enter your account address and see balances across lots of different chains. And from one side, it looked like one of the features of Zapper or Zerion. And of course, we're planning to add much more functionality, like showing NFTs owned by that account address, show participation in crowd loans, and ability to send tokens to any of the available chains, because you can select table of different chains and balances, and there could be this button send tokens. So for one of the nice usages of this service could be, for example, you're a content creator, and sometimes maybe so at the bottom of the article people say you can donate me to this address on Dot or on Polkadot, or this address on Kosama, or this address on Karura, etc. But with SubID, you can just share one URL of your substrate identity, and then people just can select to what account on what chain of you they want to send you tips. This is very handy.
No, that's super cool. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, no, that's very interesting. Awesome. And I also hear that you guys have a mobile app in the works.
Yeah, so we've been working on that for about a month or so. I think it should be out soon. Currently, though, it's only read only. So you can go on there and you can read posts, read comments, but you can't do any transactions yourself. You can't post anything. You can't comment. You can't like or downvote. You can't make a space, any of that. That will be in the next update. We'll have where you can import your account using your seed phrase, and you'll have full functionality there. In addition, there will be a big user experience boost because you'll be able to type your account password in when you first log in, and then the app will basically sign the transactions for you. So currently on the web app, anytime you like anything or comment, you have to put your password in, sign a transaction. It's kind of annoying. So on the mobile app, you won't have to do that at all. It'll basically just be like using Twitter.
Right. Yeah. I'm just like trying to soak in all the different ways that you guys are able to use the underlying technology of Subsocial to make this app, to make Sub ID, and then the different spaces that it can support. It's very, very cool, very flexible and diverse. Let's talk more about like your ecosystem and like the content creation and the community around things. I know understand that you recently started an ambassador program. Do you want to talk more about that, Zach?
Yeah, so that was, having a community around a blockchain project is really important, and I think doubly so for our project because it sort of lives and thrives and dies on the community. And so we created the ambassador program as another way to sort of get the word out, kind of decentralized marketing in the spirit of blockchain. And that launched 2-3 weeks ago, maybe. We are going to be reworking that at some point this week. We may put an announcement out for that. It might be out by the time this episode is released. We'll be opening that up to more people and just improving it, I think.
Is there anything like you can tell us about the ambassador program, or maybe if some people are interested in getting involved, how they would do that?
Yeah, so it'll be pretty similar to other projects, ambassador programs. You'll be able to participate, help market the project, write articles, translate stuff, make memes, and you can earn rewards in the form of some tokens, special Discord roles, that sort of stuff. If you want to learn more, if you join our Discord or Telegram groups, there's an announcement link in there. You can find those links if you go to subsocial.network/links.
Cool. And I think you kind of touched on it there in your talk about that, but there's something called the Subsocial Fiesta going on right now.
Yeah, so we are trying to spread the word about Subsocial. This is separate from our content bootstrapping, which is just aiming to get more content on Subsocial. We're asking people to write articles or make videos, and post them on outside websites like Medium, Reddit, HackerNoon, Twitter, etc. Talking about what Subsocial is and stuff. So that'll help with search engine optimization on Google and just spread the word out across the internet instead of just talking about it on Twitter. And we are also paying out some tokens as a reward for that. We announced that on Twitter as well, and Discord and Telegram, and our blog, which is on Subsocial.
Right. Awesome. I kind of want to end off the episode on like maybe a more philosophical kind of ecosystem kind of view of things. Like, how do you see the crypto space kind of evolving, moving into social networks? Like, we've focused a whole lot on the finance side of things. We got DeFi summers going on strong right now, but there's been a lot of talk, especially like in the last Ethereum conference, EthCC, particularly around the concept of like bringing social networks to the blockchain. So how do you see this kind of developing forward? How do you see maybe NFTs getting involved in the social space? And where do you see Subsocial going in like the next couple years?
I mean, I don't think we can talk about that without mentioning the metaverse. I think that's definitely the future. Projects like BitCountry. I mean, as far as 5 years down the line, I don't think anybody can even imagine what it'll look like in just a couple of years with how fast the space is evolving. But I definitely, I know people are already trying to do something like this with Twitter, where integrate NFTs. So I imagine we'll have something where, you can have your avatar NFT, whatever, as your profile picture, and it will be like verified basically on the protocol level that you're the one that owns that actually. But I do think it'll be interesting to see how, I'm not sure if Alex mentioned it or not, we have this term called social finance that we talk about as like the combo of decentralized finance with social networks. We just put out a little article about that last week, and I think we'll have another one coming out later today, sort of talking about, social networks combined with finance and sort of like that micro tipping I was mentioning earlier where everyone can just send each other little bits of money. Yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see what happens, but Not really sure.
Yeah, I think signs of socialism on crypto is NFTs for sure, especially crypto arts. And plus, as you just mentioned, people start using JPEGs on their avatars on Twitter, right? And on Subsocial, it's totally possible to do it in a provable way, and not just showing this avatar like a just image, but show, for example, a price with this image with avatar. So this price could be next to the image, and then it will be not possible to fake this, right? So, and this is something that you cannot put on Twitter either, like maybe through third-party integrations. And again, how can you prove that in an easy way? And why this is important? Because people buy NFTs not just because they want to buy some JPEG. They want to show that they own something that costs so much, and others want to buy that stuff. And if some NFTs are very popular, and like from aesthetical point of view, and maybe because of huge price of it, then in this situation, if NFT behaves like a social magnet. Like everyone wants to go and see how good body Kim Kardashian has, for example, right? And in this case, everyone wants to go and see what the hell this CryptoPunk look like and why people want to pay $500,000 for that. So this, from this point of view, Kim Kardashian and CryptoPunk totally similar because they're social magnet of attention. And on Subsocial, it's possible to do it in a provable way, and this is what we planning to do. So also there is interesting project called Showtime on Ethereum, and what they do, they're doing like kind of Instagram based on NFTs, but in contrast to other NFT marketplaces, they're not doing marketplace, but they're more like aggregator from popular collections across other marketplaces. But they're adding social functionality where you can follow an artist or owner, upvote NFT, comment on NFT. And these elements, they implemented them in a centralized way. And I listened to an episode with founder of that project, and he said something like they would like to have this functionality like follow, like, comment as native citizens of blockchain on the same level like with NFTs, because in this way you could utilize this data, like who commented when and in what time range and so on and so forth, and combine with NFT itself to create new monetization, ways of monetization or rewards and so on. But such as currently this centralized implemented upvotes, likes, they are outside of chain. It's impossible to use them in reward schema in a transparent, decentralized way. But on Subsocial, it's totally the case. So on Subsocial, as I mentioned before, upvote, follow, comment, they are native citizen on the blockchain on the same level as when we add support of NFTs. So by combining this social, decentralized social Legos, you can build amazing new rewards, monetization things that you haven't even seen before. Like sometimes people ask, like, what kind of monetization we could expect? And as a super simple answer, we could compare like with what we have on YouTube, Patreon, and some similar sites, right? And usually it includes like from around 4 or 5 monetizations. But if you look on Subsocial through Prism on combining possibilities of DeFi and having social networking thing altogether, monetization ways could be endless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just thought of while you were talking about that, like, you know, if a like is an NFT, it's a token itself, then you could have a like farm where you like this content and deposit this token into the farm and you get access to exclusive content. An interesting thought.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, you want to do some distribution in the future of NFTs or of your social tokens connected to your space, and upvotes on chain could be total proof of who deserves it.
Yeah, no, that's remarkable. And Zach, you mentioned BitCountry there a little while back, and I'm curious, are you in contact with that team? Are you guys working together on anything that you're able to talk about?
Not that I'm aware of really at the
Mm-hmm.
moment, but I could definitely see something like that happening in the future, sort of like a social network platform for BitCountry in
Yeah.
a way.
I mean, of course, like having a social, like a space, a BitCountry space where there's all information about BitCountry. But then I was thinking like, what would happen if there was like a Subsocial BitCountry where in that you can like wander around that space and visit other spaces in like a virtual world. That's just something that came to my mind as well.
Yeah, actually, we had a conversation with founder of BitCountry. I think it was 3 or 4 months ago, and we discussed some possibilities. But again, such as this, at this current moment, at this very moment, most of teams they are working on functionality that is needed today. Like for example, we are focused on preparing to mainnet launch and plus expanding our team, and I believe lots of other substrate-based projects and teams are quite busy with their functionalities that they need to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And once main functionality will be delivered and everything is working properly as it was planned like 1 year ago or something like that, our teams will become thinking and doing more integrations. And I'm totally interested to work on such integration in the future, but like not tomorrow.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess I'm just looking into the future on what the metaverse actually could really look like, and it's all super exciting. And I think Subsocial has a huge part to play in that. And so I thank you guys for joining me today and sharing your thoughts. Do you have anything else that we didn't get to talk about that you want to leave the audience with today?
I don't know. We touched a lot of stuff that we wanted to share with you. Maybe, Zach, do you think we need to share something else?
Come follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. Join our Discord, Telegram. Again, you can find all those links at subsocial.network/links.
Perfect.
Yeah, and if you are developer or creative person that wants to participate in creating true Web3 platform for social networking with goal to have great user experience, so please write us, and we are happy for new team members to join our team.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again, gentlemen. This has been an amazing chat. And until next time, I'll see you all on the next episode. Take care.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining us this week on Relay Chain. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the subjects we talked about today. So please reach out to us on Twitter @RelayChain or by email podcast@parity.io. The team at Parity has some of the brightest minds working towards building a robust and inclusive ecosystem that puts power back into the hands of its community members. With cross-chain communication as a primary goal, we aim to break down the tribalistic barriers that have formed throughout the blockchain industry. If you want to learn more about what we're building, or if you want to join our team, visit our website at parity.io and sign up for our newsletter at parity.io/newsletter.